I'm very well, Noreen, and it's such a pleasure to be on your show again.
Yes, I know. I'm glad that we're doing this more often. It's so important. Really quickly, I would like to introduce, and then you could, take it on from there. I would like to introduce King Cornelius and his wife Queen Jenny of the Khoisan, I hope I pronounced it correct, people of South Africa. Welcome, welcome tonight. Can they hear me?
Yes,
Oh,
good day.
hi. How are you,
How are
King
you?
Cornelius? How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And you?
Fine. I'm so glad that we were able to, sometimes I apologize for the technical issues, and I know, you never been on this station, but you are doing very well. And also, how is your wife, Queen Jenny? Right? She's there?
She's well, just very, very busy.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, I just, I know this. I'm just introducing both of you, and welcome to the station and the show. And I'm gonna let Karen to, I guess, kind of introduce the situation because, well, okay, really briefly. I've had Karen. Of course, she's had a show on the station before. I've had her on my show. This is like the fourth time, and we've been discussing with her the major issues in South Africa with the ANC, the oppression of many peoples. The poor whites right now are being oppressed, murdered, and so have your people, the Khoisan people, who are the original people of that region of South Africa. By the way, for the listeners that do not know that, and there's a lot of political things going on. There's new people there that are kind of, what do you call it, having ascendancy there, like the Chinese and the Russians, as opposed to the Indians and the whites and then the Khoisans, and there's a whole, demographic change and power shift since apartheid, the ANC taking over, and a lot of oppression and murder, robbery, murder, rape, of all these people, whites, Khoisans, anybody who is actually, not of benefit to the majority, I guess, ANC quote black people, which, you know, it's a really horrible situation. But anyway, I would like Karen to come on and speak a little bit about that.
Yes, Noreen, I think it's very important before the king speaks for people to understand. I have given the history of South Africa before, but I think it's a very important to stress that when the whites came to the Cape in 1652, the only people that they met there were the Khoisan. And they did not meet up with the black people who were coming south while the whites were going north until 150 years later. So the Khoisan people are the rightful first people of South Africa. And they have been treated despicably by both whites and blacks alike through the centuries. And this is why I have such a great admiration for the king, because he and his people are willing to forget the past and create a safe place for the future for his people and our people and the colored people. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce King Cornelius, the third of the Khoisan people, who is an extremely wonderful, kind-hearted gentleman. Good evening, my king.
Hello, Karin. How are you?
I'm great, thank you, King Cornelius. It's lovely to speak to you again.
I was a bit taken aback when you said good evening because by me it's good morning.
Yes, of course it is, but by me it's almost midnight. My king, you are the guest on the show. We would really like you to take it away, but I would like you to just start by introducing your people and the hardships they've gone through and why we are where we are at today.
Oh, thank you very much, Karin. My people have been living on this land all our lives. Like Karin mentioned earlier, we are the original people of the land before colonialism came. Now, many people in the world don't know who Khoisan people are. And one day my son came home from school. He says, Dad, they said there's no more Khoisan people in the world. And I said to him, please write down. And he wrote down an essay, and it says, in the very beginning, the only people that roamed the plains of southern Africa was the Bushmen. And then they started bartering with China and Egypt with fat-tailed sheep and cattle. And some of them ate more meat than the others, and some of them drank more milk than the others. And the children that was born from them were bigger and stronger, and they called themselves Khoi Khoi. Khoi Khoi means men of men. And they became the cattle herders and the farmers. But the Bushmen was the hunter-gatherers. But we all were hunter-gatherers in the very beginning. So when the colonials came in 1652, they asked us, who are you? We said, Khoi Khoi. They said, no, man. You're now Hottentot. And the Bushmen? Oh, they're the Bushmen. They stay the Bushmen. And then later the English came along and says, now who are you? We said, well, they say we're Hottentot and Bushmen. He says, no, you non-Europeans. Then later the Freeburgers came and says, now who are you? They said, they say we're non-Europeans. And they said, no, you're non-white. Later apartheid came along and says, now who are you? We said non-white. They says, no, you're colored. And then democracy came along and was supposed to give us back our true name as Khoi and Bushman, and they didn't. Now, politically, it was convenient for them to combine both the Khoi and the Bushmen, and they called us Khoisan people. Now, we don't have a name because I am men of men. But it's convenient for people to identify me by calling me names all my life. From the very first time they saw me, they've been calling me names. And now we have become the invisible people in the land of our ancestors. During apartheid years, we were not white enough. During democracy, we are not black enough because they say we don't fit in with the affirmative action and the job equity action. So we are a people in between. Do not know where we're going to, have no direction, because we have not been given the right to self-determination. Our rights were taken away from us from the very first time that the colonials put their feet on the land of our ancestors. Now, the atrocities of the past, it is terrible, it is evil, it is... And the Americans can look back in their history and think about the time with the cowboys and the Indians, how the cowboys used to scalp the Indians and get paid for it. The same thing happened in Cape Town. Jan van Riebeeck gave an order with the first Khoi-Dutch war in 1659 when they couldn't kill the Khoi because they were too fleet-footed. And then he gave a written order. He says, for every Khoi person you kill, you cut off his upper lip and I'll pay you for it. And when you cut off somebody's upper lip, you deface him. So he's being dehumanized. And that is how we went through all the atrocities throughout the years. Years later, the white people used to say, what are we hunting this weekend? And they say, Hottentot and Bushman. And there was a permit. You could get a permit to go hunt Hottentot and Bushman. And then for years, and I'm blessed to be the firstborn child for 16 generations dating back to 1695 that is written. But even way before that, and all these atrocities and stories have been handed down from generation to generation to keep us aware of what not to do and how to be wary of things that is going to happen to us. So, for the past 18 years, we've been trying to rectify the injustices of the present. Because the injustices of the past, we cannot change. Or we can learn from it, we can be wary of it, but we cannot change that. But the injustices of the present, that we can change because we have a hand in it. It is all about us now. And when I see and I look at all the injustices that is happening in the land of my ancestors, now, a lot of people in the world don't understand millie meal or maize meal. And I often relate the story. Over the mountain from where I live, not too far from where I stay, there's a grandmother that makes a big pot of maize meal in the morning for all the children to eat for supper tonight. And I come in there and she's crying. I said, Granny, why are you crying? She said, my child, there won't be enough food for all the children tonight. And I have no cash on me. And she goes into the back room and she comes back with a newspaper and she tears it up and she throws it into the pot of maize meal and she stirs it and it becomes black with the ink. And she's smiling and I say, and Granny now? She said, my child, all the children will be able to eat tonight. And then I realized that my children are eating maize meal and newspaper for supper. And we're living in the 21st century, where the mineral wealth of our country is valued at 36 trillion rand, and we're not benefiting from it. Now, Nelson Mandela came and became president, and he says, the land belongs to all who live in it, and all men are equal before the law. That's a lie. I was, a few years ago, I was in New York receiving the 20th Century King's Award of Achievement from the United Nations. And I was the only king of South Africa. And I said to the Americans there, I said, America says, we're the land of the free, we're the home of the brave, but you still draw the line at the N-word. I said, South Africa, we say, we have the best democracy in the world. All men are equal before the law, except the Khoisan people. And we are the only people in South Africa that is not registered and recognized as people. And the world says, but that can't be. We are then living in a democracy where everybody has a right and everybody has a say, except in South Africa. Now, we have an old saying in our culture that says, just listen for once to what we say, so that you may never be ignorant again of the Khoisan nation. But nobody listens because we don't have a voice to speak. And they say, but you're in a democracy. I said, no, we are living in a racist state. We're living in an unconstitutional state where the original people of the land has no voice. They said, how can that be? I said, we've been fighting since 1998. Because in 1997, the United Nations sanctioned the Khoi and the Bushmen as the First Nation indigenous people of the land. And then in 1999, our government changed our coat of arms in acknowledgement of our ancestry, used our language as the official cultural language of the country. And they invited us. He says, no, you now need to be part of the drafting of the white paper, to be part of the House of Traditional Leaders that Nelson Mandela started. And we were excited because now we have a chance to be part of legislature. And we sat for weeks sitting, this is what we want for the benefit of the Khoisan people, and this is what we want. And in 2003, when that white paper became an act, Traditional Leaders Act of South Africa, I went forward very excited and says, now, where do we sit? And they said to me, sorry, it's not for you. It's only for the black people. But you can benefit from the act if you have an association with a black king. So immediately thereafter, I went up about 1,200 kilometers to one of the black kings, and I came there and he says, we know this land is yours. I said, I didn't come for the land. I come to re-sign a peace treaty that your great-grandfather signed with my great-grandfather. And he immediately signed it. Then I came back to government. I says, now we fulfilled all the requirements, so we need to be part of the act. And he said, well, the act is now repealed. And every year they say we're going to include it in the new act, include it in the new act. And then in 2007, when the United Nations passed the Declaration for the Rights of Indigenous People, we were thrilled. And I went forward and I said, to my government, I said, you were one of the signatories to that declaration, including 143 other signatories to the award. Now you have to listen. And they said to me, well, you need to understand that there's no law in South Africa that says you are people, so international law cannot be applied to you. I couldn't believe what I heard, but they said it. up until today, we still don't have a voice. We're supposed to be living 24 years into democracy, what they call democracy. And yet we still don't have a voice. And yet we are not legislated as people. We are the invisible people, like I said earlier, the invisible people in the land of our ancestors. And we are 4 million people of us that are not recognized as people. So I listen to all my people crying and I say, what can I do to help? Because in 2001, when they wanted to build a private beach for the very rich in the waterfront in Cape Town, and the fisherman came to me and says, this is the only safe slipway for us to use to catch fish to feed the communities. And they want to take it away to build a private beach for the very rich. Please help. And no politician listened. And one Saturday morning, I went up to the slipway and I annexed the land under international law. Then a few months later, I went to the United Nations Working Group for Indigenous People in Geneva, and I read out the letter of annexation to 900 different indigenous people throughout the whole world, and all government representatives. And I came back, and thank God, up until today, that slipway is still available for the fishermen to go catch subsistence fish, do subsistence fishing. And then in 2003, one community came to me and says, the farmer had bulldozed our ablution facilities and bulldozed down the electricity. We are living in abject squalor. And I went onto the farm and I saw that the people are living in horse stables, and children that was 5 years old has never seen a toilet in their life. They had no electricity. And I spoke to the farmer. I said, why are you doing this to my people? And he said, no, they must get off my land. They must get off my land. And then on further investigation, I found out there was a cemetery on the land. And I said to the people, clean up the cemetery. And I saw on the gravestones that the people that was buried there since the last grave was 1890. So the people had been living there for more than a century on the land, and we just decided to throw them off. And then I put a notice on all the trees, and I says, I, King Khoebaha Cornelius, annex this land for the benefit of my people, to live on and to live from. And government came to me and says, oh, you want to do what Robert Mugabe is doing? You want to take the land from the whites and give it to the blacks? I said, no. The land is being abused. A few years later, the farmer had relocated the whole community, gave them new houses, electricity, ablution facilities. And I felt blessed that God had used me for the benefit of my people. Now, many people are going to say, but how can you do that? When I was sworn in as the king in 2001 by my elders, traditionally, I was also taken to the Chief Justice at the High Court in the West, where he was asked to sign a document. And he said, well, I'm too busy, but go to the Chief Magistrate, he will sign it. And the document that the Chief Magistrate eventually signed says that I am the legal custodian of all Khoisan land of Southern Africa. So by that authority, my responsibility is to see that the land and my people is not being abused. And this is why I speak up. So in 2009, when our government wanted to sell a mountain in Hout Bay, the Sentinel Mountain, my people have been living on the mountain for hundreds of years, living on and from the mountain. But the mountain was going to be sold to Donald Trump and Oprah Winfrey and Toki Sequoia and Nelson Mandela Foundations to build a 6-star hotel on it. And I went to the auction early in the morning on live television. I went up into the mountain, into the rain, and I knocked the board onto the ground. I says, I, King Khoebaha Cornelius III, hereby annex this land for the benefit of my people to live on and to live from. And I came down the mountain and I went to the auctioneer. And I said to him, you need to inform all those people that want to buy this mountain that there's a law in South Africa that says it is a criminal offense to be in possession of stolen property. So whoever buys this mountain will be possession of stolen property. And thank God nobody bought the mountain. So my people are still living on the mountain and from it. And then I looked at the white people and I saw how they're standing begging on the street corners. And I listened to how they cry, how the farmers are being killed, how the children are being put into ovens and being burnt alive, how the women are being gutted open and raped and mutilated. And I say, this is evil. It can't be. This is not what God intended for us to live in the land that He has given us as a blessing. And after sitting with my council and my advisors, um, we decided that on the 21st of September 2017, that we will have an undertaking of unity, sign an undertaking of unity amongst the Khoi people, the colored people, the Afrikaner or the Boer folk, and the Eurokaner, which is the English-speaking white people. And we signed it, and I said to them that the past atrocities I have to forgive. That is our nature, we have to forgive. But the present atrocities we need to rectify. So now we invite you, as all the other minorities, come be part of with us to change the things that is happening in South Africa. And then on the 24th of September, which is our Heritage Day, I went to the castle of Good Hope and I read out the Declaration of Secession. I, King Khoebaha, Cornelius III, firstborn child for 16 generations, head of the Royal House of the Khoisan Nation, secede the Western Cape, the Northern Cape, and part of the Eastern Cape and the Fish River away from South Africa. And we are calling ourselves now the sovereign state of Good Hope, where there will be no politics, where nobody will determine our destiny, where our children will have a right to determine their own destiny with guidance, where politicians won't have a say in how and what we must do and how we must do things. That firstly, the country will be governed under God, because we've lost our spirituality. People have forgotten that, pardon me, we lived like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob lived years ago. We slaughter land, give thanks to God that the blood flowed the earth, to thank Mother Earth, but all praise to God, and then we share the meat amongst each other. Those are the things that we've been exercising and practicing all our lives, and we've lost it along the way because we've been usurped by people that determine what our destiny should be. And so I knocked the board in the ground, so the land is now annexed. But I am blessed to have a world expert on human rights and international law to be my advisor, Professor Winston Nagin from the University of Florida, who was a Khoi person that was exiled in 1963. And he is now one of the experts on human rights and indigenous law. And he's guided me so that everything I do within the framework of the law. And in my declaration of secession, I asked that this secession away from South Africa become a peaceful secession, that no bloodshed should be shed, that no blood should be shed, so that we can carry on our lives in harmony for the way forward. And then the professor said to me, he says, the first thing you need to do to comply with international law, to be part of the United Nations Permanent Forum, or an observer at the Permanent Forum, he says the first thing you need to have is you need to have the land demarcated. Oh, and we have the land, which is the Western Cape, the Northern Cape, and part of the Eastern Cape, and about the Fish River. He says the second thing you need to have is you need to have the people. I said, oh, yes, we have an undertaking of unity amongst the Khoi, the Afrikaner, the Eurokaner, and the colored people. And there's about 15 million of us. He said, the next thing you need to have a declaration of secession. I said, oh, we did that, Professor. On the 24th of September at the castle, where we knocked it into the ground. He says, good. He says, the next thing you need to have a shadow government. I says, now, shadow government? He says, yes, you need to have people in place that will take over when the politicians are moved out. And we have then agreed that the people that is going to be in the portfolios, like, for example, health and education and agriculture, are not going to be politicians. People have to apply for the jobs via a CV. So we're going to have the best person in that portfolio to see that the country is run optimally. But the other thing is that those portfolios, the head of the portfolio is not going to be one person. So the head of the portfolio is going to be a Khoi person, Dalit person, Afrikaner, or a Boerevolk, and a Eurokaner. So you have 4 people being in control or in charge of the department. And they were going to choose one person to be the chairperson of that portfolio. So that means that there's no corruption anymore. Because you cannot corrupt 4 people at one time. It never works. Somebody's going to complain and says, I'm not getting enough. So we know now that that department is going to be managed by professionals in that portfolio. So he says, oh, we have a shadow government professor. He says, oh, it is good to have another country to support you in what you're doing. I said, oh, fantastic. And then you go to the United Nations Permanent Forum with the Secretary General, and you apply for observer status at the United Nations. And then you become official legal country. I says, wow. And then we can exercise our right to self-determination for every single person living in the sovereignty of the He says, absolutely. And that is what we've done, and this is how far we are. And I am excited and blessed that everybody that is in the sovereignty of the widow is supporting this initiative, because the murder and the rape and the robbery needs to stop. It is ungodly for one man to take another man's life for no reason whatsoever, or maybe just for a cigarette or his cell phone, is not right, and it's not good. So it is just a short synopsis of where we are now, Karin. So do you have another question for me?
Yes, King Khoebaha, some people have asked, why did we only annex the Cape? Because the Bushmen are in Namibia, they're in Botswana, they're all over the place. Why did we choose that piece?
That was a question that was asked me, and I had a lot of time to pray and wrestle and discuss with my counsel and my advisors. At this moment, we cannot manage the rest. What we can manage is the area that we are living in, that we're responsible for. So the places that was colonized the first, that we understand is ours, that we're responsible for. We have a saying in our culture, the land does not belong to me. I belong to the land, and you cannot separate me from the land. And as the custodian of the land and as the king, it is my responsibility to see that the land and the people on the land is not being abused. So my immediate responsibility is the Western Cape, because that is where I live. That is my immediate responsibility. But I am also responsible for the whole of Southern Africa. So once we have succeeded and made this land a success and our peace and our happiness in this good hope is going to rub off onto others around, and they were going to come back home. So everybody is welcome to come back home, those that are entitled to be here. So, and I said, my heart yearns for those that are still going to live in South Africa. But at this moment, I need to clean my own house first. And my house is the Western Cape, the Northern Cape, and part of the Eastern Cape until by the Fish River, which is the old Cape Colony. I hope that answers the question, Karin.
I hope so too, my king, because I've been asked that many times, particularly with reference to the Bushmen in Botswana. Now, but I think maybe people don't realize that Botswana is a totally separate country from South Africa. It is not a province or a state of South Africa. And you had to start somewhere. You can't just go crossing international borders, and we have to start somewhere. And as you say, cleaning your own house is a very good place to start. Um, there have been numerous questions about it, like where are we now? What is happening now? You seceded in September. What was the ANC's answer to that? And I think that is a very important thing to tell the public, is the ANC's lack of response.
Yeah. But let me come back to the Botswana story quickly, Karin, for a moment. In 2003, the Basarwa-san, the bushman in Botswana, wrote me a letter and says, please help. And we had a national Khoisan conference of the Khoisan Bushmen of the SADC regions, of southern part of Africa, below the equator. And I went up, and the Botswana government gave me 7 minutes on their news in my opening address or guest speaker. And I told them that you cannot remove the people from the land that God has given them as a blessing to live on and to live from because of diamonds. And their water holes was closed down, and people were relocated forcefully from the land. And I said to them, it is ungodly. You cannot do this. And I really jumped down their throats, and I can't use the words on radio that I used those years, because I was rough then. I'm not I wasn't as refined as I am now. And when I came back to South Africa, the Consul General of Botswana came to my house with a chocolate cake as a gesture of apology for what they've done. And from then on, we had a very good rapport. We have a very good rapport with the Botswana government, trying to ease matters. But in South Africa, we have no say in the politics of another country. So that should answer the questions of the people that are saying, what happened in Namibia, exactly the same thing, and in Botswana. When the secession happened, Karin, at the castle of Good Hope, when we started, the minute I arrived there, I observed a drone above me, hovering above me. And 12 minutes into secession, all internet was cut. So we knew now that they've been watching us. But in my declaration of secession, I say again that this secession be a peaceful secession. And I'm stressing that. So when we try to go onto the media houses and to the newspapers and to television to tell them about the secession away from South Africa, the sovereign state of Good Hope, nobody listened. The journalists told me, no, we can't cover the story. The letters to the television companies was totally ignored. Radio stations never answered our calls. And then a few weeks ago, there was a discussion about the Khoisan issue. And they asked me to speak about the Khoisan. I said, absolutely. And in that discussion, I told them about the sovereign state of Good Hope and about the website, sovereignstateofgoodhope.org. I said, go read up about it. So, and you are the first people in South Africa that now hears it from the horse's mouth. A week later, they contacted me again and says, we need to do an interview with you about the sovereign state of Good Hope, but it will be past 12 at night when everybody is sleeping in South Africa. And I did the radio interview, and fortunately, I recorded the interview because I had this gut feeling that we're not going to get a copy of the recording. And I recorded the interview, and later I phoned the producer. I says, can I have a copy of the interview, please, to put on my website? He said, well, I'll get back to you. And we went into the website, and it's gone. So no media house and no newspaper and no television, no radio station, it was allowed to cover the story of the sovereign state of Good Hope. And I am blessed that you, Karin, and Malvi, and all the other radio stations is assisting us to get the message across to the world that very soon, very, very soon, the sovereign state of Good Hope is going to be a legal, official country. So when you're going to come to Cape Town in future, and you book your flight and you say, I'm coming to Good Hope.
Doesn't that sound great? It's it's such a great message for the world today, because the world is in such a mess, King Cornelius. It is in a terrible mess, and we all need some good hope. And this, given the state of the world today, could be an example of what can be done peacefully, without politics, and save those 14 million people you were talking about, because those people's lives are in severe danger right now, especially with the ousting of President Zuma and the elections coming up and the Blackland First people wanting a place in Parliament. South Africa is a mess, and this good hope is something that everybody needs.
I agree with you, Karin. I've been stressing and using this terminology all the time, that the sovereign state of Good Hope should be a peaceful secession with no blood. There was a pony newspaper that had I think it was 2 weeks ago, that had a thing in it about the sovereign state, not the sovereign state, about the independence of the Cape Province. They mentioned about the independence of the Cape Province. The next Monday, 5 loads of black people came down from the Eastern Cape and moved onto the land of the farmers in the Cape, in Philippi. And there was land invasion, and 7 people were killed because they said that don't think because Jacob Zuma is gone that we're not going to stop with this land invasion. The ANC has a policy now that they will take land without compensation. Now, it's like that in proper English. It's stealing. And in a country under God, where we live by the laws of God and the values that we live by, that is not our nature. Now, we understand that. We understand the taking of land without compensation. It's been taken from us all our lives, from the very beginning. And now they come and they want to take more, and they want to take the rest that we've paid for. Now, my people are angry. They're angry and they're disillusioned. Now, when I say my people, already I'm living in the sovereign state of Good Hope. I don't live in South Africa. So my people are so angry and frustrated. But a lot of them have no hope left. And this is where the word good hope comes in. And I'm telling them it's okay, because very soon that is not going to be part of your life anymore. I don't think that the rest of the world or the Americans can understand. The weather was bad one day along one of my fishing villages along the coast. And they phoned me and says, we had to kill the neighbor's dog to feed the children today. And I became very angry because my children don't eat dog. And the elder said to me, it's okay. At least the children ate. And he said, the half of the dog is left in the fridge for tomorrow. And I was fuming. And the elder said, it's okay, they ate. But what about the boy that lost his pet? And we never realize that things that happens, the consequences thereof, the repercussions thereof, has so deep emotional scarring that somebody's going to be hurt. And this is what we're trying to rectify in the sovereign state of Good Hope. One of my visions and one of my plans that I presented to the economic department is that I would like every eligible, entitled citizen of the sovereign state of Good Hope to get 100,000 rand for nothing. so that we no longer have hungry people in this land. You'll not in, I cannot let you see in your mind 11 million homeless people in South Africa, in the whole of South Africa. 11 million homeless people. Now we know that when you see a homeless person, you look at him and you don't see him. He's invisible. Now, my people, the Khoisan people, are also invisible in this land. The white people are becoming invisible. I go to the squatter camp, and there's a white squatter camp. It's never been before, but there's a white squatter camp where people standing on the street corners and begging and having no dignity left because they don't have. And we are one of the wealthiest countries in the world when it comes to minerals. And we're not willing to share. Our nature all our life is to share. I would have 2 slices of bread and I'd give one to my brother or my friend when I was a child. Now, people are saying, oh, I have 2 slices of bread, I cut the one in half and I give the piece to my neighbor and I have 1.5. So I'm sharing, but it's not with kindness anymore. We've lost our values along the way, Karin. My grandfather taught me how to fight with a kiri, or a knop kiri, since I was 13 years old. And the beads on my staff is red, white, and gold. And these are the values that we try to reinstill back into our people. And these are the values I live by. And the red is the love and the vibrance I have in my heart to share. And the white is the peace that I offer you. And the truth is the gold is the truth that I speak. And the beads that I wear on my neck is made of seeds, so I preserve life. And I have a tooth that hangs there. It says, I'm a valiant warrior. I fear nothing other than God. So by these values, if every citizen can live by those values, or we instill those values into them, then we're going to be good hope. Then we're in the place that everybody in the world would want to come to. Because in this land, there's going to be no disrespect for each other. We're going to have a law that says you will not disrespect each other. Now, one of my policy writers said to me, we are going to take from every part of the world, from their policies, that is the best, and implement it in the sovereign state of Kudu. Now, can you picture this, Karin? Every policy in the world, in every country that is the best there, is brought into the sovereign state of Kudu for the benefit of the people here. We're going to be the best country in the world.
I believe that because I have read the laws and I've read the draft constitution, and I really do believe that Good Hope is going to be almost an Eden on earth. But we still have challenges to overcome, and the worry is that the ANC is not going to get let loose of those taxes. It's the taxes more than the people that they care about. And the Cape pays a lot of tax. And you always have to follow the money. So the money is what is going to annoy the ANC more than anything else.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Karin, but King Cornelius, I think it's on your end. Do you want to maybe turn down one of your speakers? Because every time it seems like anybody speaking outside of your context, we're reverberating, like some kind of echo. I don't know, I don't know. I can see it as it's coming from your windows. You might want to play with your speakers a little bit, just see what happens. But just thought I'd let you know. I didn't mean to interrupt the rhythm here. And I'm also going to look in a few minutes to see if we have a music break coming up, because we're almost at the top of the hour. But going, Karin, because I will see you shortly in the text box. Go on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That is my worry, because the money is what the ANC is all about. You can see that throughout their 24-year history. what all of them have done, they have robbed that country blind. And as you say, they are bussing in loads and loads of people to start new black squatter camps so that they have voters there that can stir up unrest and vote out anything that is of value. So you may wish to be peaceful, but do you really think that the ANC is going to allow that?
I hope so, Karin, because the ANC has no choice now.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you again. We just got the music cue. So hold that thought, King Cornelius and Karin, everybody. I will cue you back in. This is Noreen helping Wild at Heart. We'll be right back with Karin Smith and King Cornelius. Stay tuned. Go on with your question again to the king.
Yes, King Cornelius. So one has to follow the money. And speaking of money, I think people need to understand that right now you are a group of people who've had to work undercover for a very, very long time to get the secession off the ground. And it has cost you and all the others involved personally an incredible amount of money. So there is no money in the kitty. So then people ask me, well, then how can you start a country? What they don't seem to understand, and what I'd like you to explain, is that once you have the accreditation from the United Nations, all the taxes flow into Good Hope instead of into the ANC, and then you will be flush with money.
Oh, absolutely, Karin. Absolutely. What people don't understand, or very few people know, that only the Western Cape taxes is 185 billion rand a year to national government. And national government only gives back 45 billion rand to the Western Cape. So the Western Cape has been surviving on 45 billion rand. What more can we do with 185 billion rand? So the money is not the issue for the sovereign state of Good Hope. There will be the mineral wealth in the sovereign state of Good Hope. We have experts. The person that's going to hold that is busy holding the portfolio at the moment for economics is one of the people that has chartered accountants, registered as a chartered accountant in South Africa, in Britain, and in America. So he's an expert in the field when it comes to monies and how to put things in place. So that is their problem, and they have their portfolio and their group of people that they're working with. And this is why I say the shadow government is already in place.
And working, my king, working. They're not just sitting idling.
No, they are working. This is why I say we are now ready. We are now ready to, I don't want to say too much. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. But we are ready for the sovereign state of Good Hope to become a legal, official country. Because everything is in place. We have policies in place. The economics people is in place. The environmental people is in place. The judicial people is in place. The health people is in place. The foreign affairs people is in place. So I can go on and on and on. So we are ready. And when I come back, and we are ready, then we'll have a meeting with the South African government, and I will then tell them, now we are an official legal country. So please vacate my country. I like that. We'll give them an eviction notice.
As President Trump would say, you are fired. and that would be an absolutely wonderful day for all the South Africans that have joined hands together to make this a reality. Because really, King Cornelius, things in South Africa are going from bad to worse. This month alone, there have been 10 farm attacks per week. 2 farmers murdered per week. That is just the farms. That is not the urban murders. That is only, and that is not counting black or colored or Khoisan murders, that is just black on white murders. It cannot go on like this.
You know, the old watchdog of South Africa, Tulimadut Sena, she said, the black people need to understand that they cannot live in the past anymore. Because they feel they are victims all their life. See, if you look at black murders, it's committed by black people. Black women that is being raped, most of them are committed by black people. Black people's cars that have been hijacked is committed by black people. Black children that is being killed and eaten is committed by black people. So black people must stop killing themselves and stop hurting themselves and then wanting government to rectify the injustice that they are committing. Now, I don't understand how people can live in that environment where it is part of our culture, it is part of our nature. There's an old saying in life that says, when I go on a holiday, please keep an eye on my place to see if my house is okay. In our culture, when the dogs bark next door, I open my door to see if the neighbor's house is okay. I get 2 pieces of fish, I give one to auntie next door. Years ago, when the auntie wanted to bake some pancakes and she never had fish oil, she says to the son, to ask auntie for some fish oil, and later on she sends the pancake over. These are the things we are independent, but we're also interdependent. We're interdependent. And this is what South Africa don't have. There's no interdependence in South Africa. It's all about me, myself, and I, and what can I do for me, and what can you do for me, but I'll do nothing for you. In the sovereign state of Good Hope, that mindset is going to be gone. Because when you have the right to self-determination, and I often use the analogy, and I say to people, can you picture in your mind, now in South Africa, the child is on his way to school, so when he wakes up in the morning, he goes outside, and she washes herself in cold water, and she comes inside, and she gets dressed, she takes the school books, and she walks to school barefoot, hoping that the first meal is going to be at school. In the sovereign state of Good Hope, the child would wake up, go wash in warm water, have breakfast at home, put on school shoes, and then go to school, knowing that my future for me is determined by my own destiny. And that, if you can just picture that in your mind and see the difference between the two analogies, then you can know that the sovereign state of Good Hope is going to be good for the children. Because they are the future of the country. And when a child is damaged, when he becomes an adult, he'll still be damaged. If the scenario hasn't changed. We are changing the scenario in the sovereign state of Good Hope and saying that the laws of South Africa is not going to be applicable in the sovereign state of Good Hope, because we will have the right to self-determination. And that word, the right to self-determination, is one of the fundamentals and basis of the United Nations Human Rights Charter and international law. And everybody in the world wants to have the right to self-determination. So we are going to exercise this in the sovereign state of Good Hope, where people will. Often I hear my people say, oh, I have this idea, and I have this idea, and I can do this, and oh, I would like to be an entrepreneur, but I don't have the funds to start with. And in the sovereign state of Good Hope, and this is again my vision, where everybody will have 100,000 rand, and there'll be programs of how to work with your money. And if you're 5 in a family, you start a co-op with your passion, and you'll just be adding value to the country. And all that monies that were given to you will be plowed back into the country to boost the economy. And yes, there will be people that will be wasting it. Yes, they will. If you waste it, you're going to come back, and then you're going to work for you the rest of your life. You're going to work as a candy stripe, or you're going to go work in a guana factory, or you're going to go to the army, but you're going to work. But you've been given the chance to determine your own destiny, because now you have something in hand. You cannot determine a destiny if you have nothing in hand. There's an old saying, and I often explain to my people, my grandfather used to tell me, he told me one day, he says, my boy, get me a handful of sand, please, outside. And I came in, my hand closed, sand in it. He says, where's the sand? And I opened my hand. And he says, what happened to the sand? I said, I don't know, Pa. He says, now go outside. He says, because you closed the hand, so you lost some of the sand. You go outside and get me a handful of sand, but don't close your hand. And I came back and he says, did you lose any sand? I says, no, Pa. He says, never close your hand. Because when your hand is closed, you will lose that which is in it. Now, when it's open, people can take out and they can put in. And you'll always be a blessing. And this is what I'm saying to the rest of the world, that our hands in South Africa is open for you to put in and to take out. And I'm teaching this to the children. It says, when your hand is open, you're sharing. And you also become a helping hand. But when your hand is open, you're not waiting for handouts. And we've passed that stage in our life when we're waiting for handouts. We are now saying, here's my hand. And here's my heart, and it's open for anybody that will add value to my life for the way forward. And when you have that mindset in the service to the good hope, that I care for my neighbor, then if my neighbor needs help, I'm there to help, because I'm a helping hand. Now, we don't have that in South Africa.
We did though, King Cornelius. We did have it. We did have it, because in my lifetime, South Africa was known as a hospitable, warm-hearted, wonderful country. But we lost that somewhere along the way. And I agree with you, we have to get it back, because the humanity in human beings is being eroded. And you talked about cannibalism, eating people, etc. This seems to be, especially in South Africa, the people seem to be regressing and going back to savagery. We need to get humanity back.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with you. I was dumbstruck when I saw the media about children being killed and eaten by the neighbors. Now, it is not in our culture. It is not in our country. Oh, years ago, we had cannibals that ate other people because it was their culture. It is not our culture. It has become a thing. Two albino children were kidnapped the other day, and body parts was taken from them for muti. So it is evil. We cannot live in a country that is this evil, that it is allowed by the government of the country for these things to happen, and they're not doing anything.
No, because my king, when a man can walk into a police station, put a human arm on the counter and tell the police, you have to help me, I'm tired of eating people. And then they go and investigate the village, and there are 300 people eating people. I can't believe that this is happening in a first world, supposedly first world country in this day and age.
Last week, we had a police station that was attacked by a church group. 5 policemen was killed. The autobahns was bombed up. And they stole all the ammunition out of the police station. And they're saying that God said they must do it. That the Constitution was written by the devil. And the children mustn't go to school because the future is in God's hands. Now, these are the things that's happening in South Africa, and the world is not aware of this. But it's, one guarantee I can give you is that because the sovereign state of Buddha is going to be under God, and all religions will be respected under God, will be respected. But if it goes against the grain of our spirituality, it will be rectified. Or they can go back to South Africa. But it will not be tolerated in the services, where people have lost. I said the other day, I hear how you're complaining. Are you not thankful? Are you not grateful for the things that you have? You say, oh, but I have old bread and it's hard. I just urge you, be thankful you have bread. There's those that don't have. Yes, and the milli meal that we're eating is more water and newspaper than anything else. I says, be thankful that you have. For now, be thankful because there's others that don't have. And everything that goes wrong is and and nobody's thankful anymore. We have, and you know this, Karin, in our language, we're the only people in the world, that has 3 words for thank you. And when I say thank you, I say gans, which means thanks. When I say kayayos, I say big thank you. When I say tamaku, I say thank you with deep gratitude. And we are thankful people and grateful people. And this is why we had to make the change away from South Africa. Because we realized that these people aren't thankful anymore. Because all they want, and they're taking and thinking of nobody else other than themselves. And they're not grateful. Because we're entitled to, and you owe us for what we've been through during apartheid and colonialism. And that is not where we're at. So the future for the sovereignty of Good Hope, I have this warm feeling in my chest when I think about the sovereign state of Good Hope and the future and how nice it's going to be. Where you look at the world today and you see very few people smiling. And I look at my people, those that know they're living in the sovereign state of Good Hope already, they're all smiling. And that gives me peace of heart, knowing that we are doing the right thing.
King Cornelius, you mentioned many times adding value. Now, that to me is one of the most important things that you can say. If people do not add value to the sovereign state, they must go back to where they came from. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My purpose in life, and I thank God that I've identified my purpose in life. And my purpose in life is to add value without causing harm. And there's a very thin line between adding value and adding value without causing harm. And when you add value, there is so much joy. There's so much blessings. It's such a nice feeling. I am blessed that God has blessed me with healing hands. So, and my wife is a herbal doctor. But I make her medicine. And when I see how people's lives are being changed by value being added to their life, how they become healthy, and how grateful they are, and how thankful they are. Only in that small part, by adding value, you see the changes and you see the joy. So, if everybody in the sovereign state of Good Hope adds value to each other, what a beautiful place this is going to be.
Indeed, my king. I've lost my train of thought now. I just get so astounded at the things that you say and how they touch my heart that I actually lose what I was going to say to you. So there was the adding value thing, and then there was education. That is what I wanted to speak about, because you and Queen Jenny are very, very, very strict about education. And you also, I believe, don't feel that Bachelor of Arts for half the population to get one of those is of use. You are very into jobs, education that adds value for trades, etc. Things that you can go straight from school, go and work, earn a living, add value to the community.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In 1976, with the first uprising of the Khoisan people or the colored people in Cape Town, in the Western Cape, it was about equal education. We weren't happy that we had education, but it wasn't on par with the white people. So we rose up because we wanted equal education. I ran in front in 1976 for equal education. But we look at it, and the sacrifices that we made during those years to get equal education in South Africa. My son graduated last year, BA Sports Science, and he's doing his honors this year. And I look at him and I am proud. And I see that the sacrifices that I made in 76, they reaping the rewards of it now. But when you look at other children, where the child needs 30% to go to university of the passing matric, it is the matriculants can't even read properly. Now we were bashed at home as children that we had to read. Oh, reading was so important. So now we've come to understand the going back to basics. And we are teaching our children now already that reading at a young age is very, very important. And we have programs for our children to read. But the education system that the South African government has is to accommodate the black children. We are saying that education is going to be equal, but on par with international standards. Because when the child leaves school, he might not have the mental capacity and the ability to be a doctor or a scientist or a neurosurgeon, but he's gifted working with his hands. But he must be able to read. He must be able to understand mathematics. And he become a tradesman. I am a tradesman. I am a boilermaker by profession. I can work with my hands, and I love working with my hands. And these are opportunities that we have to make available to children. You can become a technician, you become an engineer, you become a welder, a boilermaker, anything you want, because you have the right to determine your own destiny according to your own abilities and your own capacity. But we will enhance it by giving you the skills for the way forward. And this is where the education department comes in. And we have people in that department that is changing policy for the better, or 10, 100 times better than what it is now in South Africa. So the sovereign state is we're going to have a lot of clever people and a lot of artists in this country where we'll be able to work and benefit each other for the way forward. You are excited I am about this, Karin. Just talking about it, I see all these things happening already.
I see that, and I am so excited about it too, because for me it has been an absolute honor to have been involved in this movement since before you seceded, and to still be involved in it, and to see this thing growing and happening and coming to fruition. It is such an exciting thing, because I wonder how many people in their lifetime can say, I was involved in the formation of a new country, a beautiful new country. There are not many people who can say that. And so I'm not boasting. I'm very humble about my tiny part in this, but it is such a wonderful thing to have been part of, and for me to one day be able to have my passport and fly in to the sovereign state of Good Hope, because I can never go back to South Africa without being arrested. So for me, it would be such a great thing for my grandchildren to go back to our roots and see the country that I thought they would never, ever be able to see where they come from, where their roots are, where I grew up. It is so exciting for me. And it's all because of yourself and brave people like yourself that this is even possible.
I have to interject here. I want to say that yes, it is bravery, because this is the first time. I hope I'm not vibrating too much here, reverbing. This is the first time I've had any dialogue with King Cornelius, I've obviously had it with Karen, and hold on a second. I have to say, this is a very positive feel I'm getting here about the situation because a lot of time, when Karen comes on here, and it has to be said, it's very important to say that the conversation tends to be very
Dark.
sad. It has to be, I hate to say it, because we have to describe what is going on in this region of the world. We can't sugarcoat it, we can't hide it. And also there's so much complexity to it because I was having a conversation, King Cornelius, with Karen just recently about, it seems to me like this hierarchy of what happens in this area is, you have your Khoisan people, which are the original inhabitants of South Africa, tribal, and then historically, I guess the white, Boer, Afrikaner, British people came in, colonized, caused disruption to the Khoisan, and then Black non-Khoisan peoples from other regions of Africa come in. Then you got all these other people in modern times coming in, right? The Indians from India. I said it before, Chinese, Russians, anybody, Jews, whoever, okay, French, it doesn't matter. Many people have descended on this area. What I was telling Karen, that the pattern seems like, unfortunately, that whoever has ascendancy, whether it's whites, French, Chinese, Russians, Indians, doesn't matter. Seems like whenever they are no longer in power, they no longer have some kind of business or financial system to give to the, I guess, majority blacks. I'm not sure how that goes. Whoever is around there that's saying, hey, you got to help us and this and that, whatever. I'm not saying that everyone's the same. I'm sure there's many black people in this region that are honest and hardworking and have nothing to do with the craziness there. But then you're going to have your bad people. So then what happens, it's like, to me, like whenever the people that are in power, and like I said, I named all the groups, okay, with the exception of the Khoisan who never really had power, you descended upon, but all these other people that came after you, they had their power, and then when they lose it, like the whites lost it. Karen was telling me the next the chopping block, so to speak, might be the Indian people from India that are successful and have been there for at least a few generations. It seems to me like it's like a hierarchy of, okay, we're gonna entrap these people, get rid of them. Next, on to the next. And I said it on the last show. Hey, the Chinese and Russians are having a lot of power right now. And then Karen was saying, what people do and don't. And okay, so those are the people that are right now in kind of like financial control or whatever in the area. But that does not free them up from being the next victims later on down the line. And I think that this is one of the strange things about South Africa, but I think it's kind of a showcase as to what's happening globally. Now, we don't have to talk too much about the global issue, okay? No break. Yeah, I don't think so. We don't have to talk about the global issue, but this does seem like a template, and I've said it on this show before. Karen has also, that whatever is going on in South Africa is like a template for global, power, global takeovers, the entrapment of people, the murder of people. This is, we've mentioned this before, so it is good to hear about, your positive, outlook on all this, because I'm sure you have a lot of opposition, and I don't think, you sound cheerful, but that doesn't mean that, you're not aware, that you are not aware of the opposition that, you probably have, like, all around you. I mean, and you could choose to talk about that if you want. I want you to speak your mind tonight, fine, but I just had to bring up this situation here and how it compares to what's going on globally with the, quote, globalists in power. But I just had to say that.
I agree with you, Noreen. I agree with you. Firstly, I need to rectify you quickly. We are not a tribe.
Okay.
It's not a tribe, it's a nation.
All right.
Within the nation, we have various tribes.
Okay.
Like we have the Korana, we have the Griqua, we have the Nama, we have the Khoi, we have the Bushmen. Those are the 5 groupings that they decided. But within that groupings, we have various clans, like the Goran Icona and the Atakwa and the Hesekwa and all those other tribes. So those are the tribes of the nation. But the Khoisan people are a nation. So we understand what is happening globally. We are not naive. We've experienced it firsthand in South Africa with state capture. We have business people coming in and manipulating the politicians and taking over state entities and stealing billions and billions of rand and taking it out of the country. We have people coming in. There was a big fight now about a trillion rand nuclear deal with the Russians, and it's a mess. But we understand these things and we understand where they're going to. But it's politics. Now, the sovereign state of Budo is no politics. People are not going to vote somebody in and says, we're going to give him power. That is why, and when people understand our organogram or our demographics of the sovereign state of Budo, is that firstly, the country will be governed under God. The king and his council will be there to see that no abuse is happening to the land and to the people, but there's an executive council of each representative of the Khoi, the Khalid, the Yorokana, and the Afrikaner or the Guru nation, where these people will sit and manage and facilitate all the portfolios. And the chairperson of those portfolios will come and present their agendas or their proposals to this executive council, and they are going to sit and debate whether it will be good for the country. And then they'll bring it to the king and says, this is what we've decided. And the king and his council will look at it and say, is it going to abuse the people? Is the land going to be abused? And if not, it is passed, and sanction becomes a law in the country. And people say, but then the king is going to rule. Well, the king needs to rule, but the people will govern. People will govern. The king's responsibility is only there to see that it is not being abused. So it is not autocratic or authoritarian state. People that is qualified to, in their various portfolios are going to govern the country. Everybody is going to benefit from it. So if you see the world today and see how people are being manipulated because of wealth and because of their standing in life and because of the positions in life, it's not going to happen in the sovereign state of Budo. And yes, we're going to have wealthy people. And yes, we're going to have, but nobody's going to be poor anymore. Now, if you take the poor equation out of the world, and we look at the world and we see how children starve, and we see how people die of hunger and malnutrition, we're going to try and eliminate that and eradicate it out of the sovereign state of Budo, because we will have no more hungry people. Now, politicians won't be able to manipulate and change like they're doing in the rest of the world, where one person will make a decision for the country because he is been voted in by the people. So the sovereign state of Budo, people will apply for their positions with their CVs. So there's a big difference in the global world than to the sovereign state of Budo. And this is why it is so unique, and people want to come to Budo to see how and feel how the difference from where they live and how we are going to live.
I need to say this. I gotta ask. So this is very positive, and I know you guys are already legitimate in terms of your legal status, correct? And you are a legitimate nation as we speak right now. It's already been legally blueprinted and signed, and it's already effective. This nation.
We are an official country.
Right.
An official country.
Right.
Our legal status.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have observer status at the United Nations Permanent Forum to be part of the global world. We need to be part of the global world.
Yeah, I gotta say this. So you do need to have the UN, of course. This is a real world thing. I mean, no, this is not. I'm just saying that it's almost kind of like you have this great idea. There's like, we've got to deal with the UN somehow. I don't know, however it works out. Hopefully for the better. But yeah, I'll let you talk about that, but I wanted to also ask you, how is this going to all transition? You could maybe speak to that after the UN thing and how that's going to work, because how how are the other people that are outside of the Khoisan nation, say like the Afrikaners or others, Indians, anybody who needs to transition into this, new nation, how logistically is it going to work? Do you have plans on how to do this, or just kind of curious as to how this is going to, work, so forth. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, the United Nations is a very integral part in the sovereign state of Kudo. When we have observer status first, we apply for observer status because we want to be part of the world. We're not an isolated country or to become an island. We want to be part of the world and have multilateral and bilateral arrangements with any country that would add value to the sovereign state of Kudo. So, yes, we want to be part of the United Nations, and that once we part there, we become a legal official country. Now, the people, the Afrikaner or the Boer folk, and the Yorokana people and the colored people are all part of this. And many of them, when we signed the Undertaking of Unity, the Undertaking of Unity is saying that all people in the sovereign state of Kudo are going to be equal. There will be no race classifications in the sovereign state of Kudo. You are who you are. If you're Afrikaner, you're an Afrikaner or a Boer. If you're Yorokana, you're a Yorokana. If you're colored, you're a colored. You're Khoi. But everybody will have an equal opportunity, equal say, and equal chance in the sovereign state of Kudo.
See, you do understand that one of the problems, and I'm sure you are very well aware of this, that's going on globally, is there is a push to take away the sovereignty, literally, not just in your region but globally, the sovereignty of people, their nations, and thus taking away their rights to safety, security, and all the rest of the things that make us human and so forth. So really, what you're proposing to do is something that's kind of going, well, I mean, we want it to succeed. It is going against, it's kind of going against what they, quote, the globalists have planned. You're in the positive direction. They're trying to take us into this dark direction of lacking in this positive sovereignty. So to me, if you can accomplish this, the globalists are trying to fight you on, I hope you can accomplish this, because it would be quite a feat if you can, considering all the direction that the global elites are trying to push you to. So it is interesting, definitely. Yeah.
One advantage we have, sorry, Karin, one advantage we have is we're following all the due processes of the law, international law. And we understand where the world is going to. We understand that. We're not naive or ignorant about it. We understand that. What we are saying is, what I am saying is that people need to understand that I am not made a king. I was born a king. And my ancestors have been kings for generations and generations. And I said to one of the ministers the other day, I says, you people are here to see that my soul is being preserved for God. That is your responsibility. But my purpose on earth, I am the highest servant of God on earth. I was ordained by God. If you go back to the time of David and Solomon, that is who I am. And my responsibility is to see that my people and the people in my land or in our land is not being abused. Now, we are not going back to biblical times. People must forget that. We're not going back to biblical times. But we're going to go back to how it's supposed to be. How it was in the very beginning, where people tried that had the authority and had power and believed they had power, came and usurped and took and changed because they believed it was right. Over all these years, we've learned the difference between right and wrong. And we know the difference between right and wrong. Because we live by these godly values of love and kindness and sharing with kindness. And we live that way every day of our lives. And we want to share this with the rest of the world and say, come see how you're supposed to live.
Exactly. That's so important that we have to see this model work, because right now, like I said, people all over the world need the hope of self-government, self-sovereignty, and all this. And if you can accomplish this, then that's an example as well to everybody else struggling with this type of situation.
Yeah, we don't say if anymore, nor we say when. We don't say if. We say when.
Soon.
We are that far advanced in our planning, in our strategy now, that when it's going to happen is very soon. That's all I can say for now. Very soon.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that was another thing that I keep on being asking Cornelius is, oh, the UN's nothing but a joke. Do you really think that the UN is going to be on your side? They are so totally against nation states and borders, and they want this one world government thing. Are they going to let you? But I think you've explained that very well. You have complied with all the international laws, and in order to be accepted as a country, whether you like the UN or whether you don't like the UN, no matter what you think of them, you need to be part of them to have the final piece of the jigsaw in place.
Absolutely, Karin. You see, one advantage we have is when I present, I was told one day by a wise man, he says, we need to make wise decisions in life. And when we want to make wise decisions, we need to become quiet. Because when you're quiet, you can listen to what people are saying. When you listen to what people are saying, you can hear what they say. And when you hear what they say, you know what they're talking about. And when you know what they're talking about, you can understand how they feel. And when you understand how they feel, then you can make wise decisions. And this is what we're going to present to the United Nations. This is just listen for once to what we have to say. And then we tell them what we are going to do. And we explain it to them so that they know what we talk. And once we explain to them, show them this is how it's going to happen, they can understand what we're saying. Whether they accept us at the United Nations as a sovereign state or not, that is for the future. But now we're making application to be part of the Permanent Forum and the General Assembly of the United Nations. And that is what it comes down to. The ball is in their court, whether they're going to accept us as a sovereign state. But we are going to put our case to them and say, this is what we're going to do, this is why we're going to do it, this is how we're going to do it, and this is going to be the end result of it, so that they can understand, they can know, and they can hear what we're going to do. And that is a synopsis of where the United Nations comes into the sovereign state of Budo.
Have you had other world leaders and politicians, wherever they may come from, have you had conversations about this situation and your nation state and your objectives, and what kind of replies back have you received, whether they're good, bad, in between, or however, from other global leaders, etc. on this?
Oh, what we've done in the interim period, Noreen, is we've handed out letters personally to various embassies in South Africa. For example, even the American embassy, a letter to the ambassador and to the President Donald Trump with my official seal on it and my personal signature, telling them what is happening and requesting an audience. We've done it to the British embassy, also to Theresa May. We've done it to the Germans and to the Merkel. We've done it to the Mexicans. We've done it to a lot of embassies, a lot of countries, to tell them what we're doing so that they can be informed. I've spoken to some ambassadors, and they are excited about the change. Their government, which is political, will have to sit down and discuss the matter, and they are going to decide whether they're going to have an audience with me or not. But again, it's irrelevant as long as I have reached out my hand and says, this is where we're going to go. One of the Maori chiefs of New Zealand, I had a Skype conference with him one day, and he says, how can I help? Because I see where you're going to, and I'm excited about it. And we are in a similar boat, and can I come to the South Africa and help you? I says, if your heart is like my heart, come get on my chariot and come help save my people. And this is the same gesture I'm making to all governments in the world, to all ambassadors, and saying, if your people's heart is like my heart, come get on my chariot and come save my people. Whether you want to or not is irrelevant. We are saved already. We are living in the sovereign state of Israel. We're just waiting for all the, like Karin said, all the pieces of the puzzle to fit into place to make this a legal, official country.
And then I would like you to talk a little about the colored people, because this is a concept that the rest of the world does not understand. Firstly, why we call them coloreds, and who they are.
Thank you, Karin. I often say to people, when the colonials came to South Africa at the very beginning, they came without wives. And they consummated with the Khoi and the Bushman people. Out of that consummation was born Khoi and Bushman. But the genes of the father were stronger, so the child came out with blonde hair, blue eyes, and fair skin. But the other child was me. When the slaves came over from Indonesia and Malaysia, they came without wives. They also consummated with the Khoi and Bushman. Out of that consummation was born Khoi and Bushman. But again, the genes of the father were stronger, so the child came out with sleek hair, sharp features, and a tan complexion. But the other child was me. When the blacks came down from Middle Africa and they saw how beautiful we were, they also consummated with the Khoi and Bushman. Out of that consummation was also born Khoi and Bushman. The genes of the father were stronger, the child came out with curly hair, dark skin. But the other child was me. But when the whites and the blacks consummated, out of that consummation was born a mulatto, which is a Griqua. But they also consummated with the Khoi and Bushman. So I say to the people, a lot of white people are descendants of the Khoi and Bushman. A lot of black people are descendants of the Khoi and Bushman. A lot of colored people are descendants of the Khoi and Bushman. And now people are saying, oh, hang on, who am I? Where do I come from? What is my heritage? When I arrived at the United Nations for the first time, they asked me, who are you? Where are you from? I said, I'm an African. Very proud. And they said, which part of Africa? I said, I'm a South African. And they said, what nationality are you? I said, I'm Khoi. I'm First Nation indigenous to the land. And they bowed to me, and I didn't understand why. But a few days later, I found out that they knew more about my heritage and culture than I myself, because they study about us in the schools believing we're extinct. And we're not. And one of our plights in our country is we have one of the most beautiful languages in the world called Khoebaha. We have 11 official languages in the country, and our language is not an official language, but the only cultural language of the country. And the language we've been deprived from speaking the language. But we speak it nearly every day, without us even realizing that that is the ancient tongue of the Khoi. And the Russian linguists call this the language of the tongue, where it is such a beautiful language that very few people can even speak it. So the colored people nowadays are coming forward and says, hang on, they've been calling me colored because, firstly, I was called Hottentot and Bushman. Then I was called non-European. Then I was called non-white. Then they decided to call me a colored. And now they've abolished the Colored Act in 1993. So now I'm a nobody. But who am I really? And when they go back to their parents, they say, Mommy, where do I come from? Say, well, your great-grandmother was a Khoi woman, and your great-grandfather was an Englishman. A few years ago, I had two girls from Namibia. And they said to me, King, who are we? My mother was a colored, now she's Khoi. And my father's a German. And we are classified as busters. And I said to her, you need to understand, my child, that when the Germans came to South Africa, they gave up their homeland and they came to be adopted by the land. And when a person is adopted, then you have all the privileges in the land because you're an adopted child. You can go to the street, you can go open the bread, and because you're adopted, you get to be part of it. But then he got married to the land because we are the land. And out of their marriage is born the land. And the child sat up straight back and says, then I'm also descendant of the land. I said, absolutely. She says, then I'm also Khoi. I said, absolutely. And this is how people are starting to identify their heritage. That it doesn't matter. A lot of them say, oh, my great-grandfather was an Englishman, an Irishman, and a Scotsman. And they forget about where their great-grandmother comes from. And if you are born out of the land, you're part of the land. In 2001, I met the Chief Willie Littlechild of the Cree Nation of Alberta, Canada at the United Nations. And I said to him, Chief, how do you identify who's Indian for the reservations? He says, we take 1/16 of their blood. I said, how do you do that? He says, oh, easy. We go back 1/16 into the generation. Any one of them is Indian, they can classify themselves as Indian. They can classify themselves as Indian. And will be accepted. And we have adopted the same thing in South Africa or in the sovereign state of Kudo. Whoever you identify yourself with and your heritage claims that is who you are. And this is where it comes.
Oh, go ahead. Finish your sentence. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And this is where the right to self-determination comes into.
We're headed toward the end of the show soon, but I was just texting to Karin, and also this is addressed to you too. Either one of you, I've been posting some of your websites that pertain to the secession and the situation in South Africa in the chat room. If you want to say any of them on the air right now, is your time to do that?
King Cornelius, may I just say something? I would like to appeal to your listeners, please. In order for the king to be able to go to the United Nations, we need some funding. And this is critical timing. Time is short. We have to do it in a very, very short space of time. Please, please, please consider. I know that there are many, many calls on everybody's money at the moment, but please consider how important this is, not only for South Africans, but for the world. Please consider. Go to his website, Sovereign State of Good Hope, and there's a donate button there, or you can go to mine, which you know, radiofreesouthafrica.com, and you can donate there. Just make a note on it. It's for the sovereign state, and the king will tell you that any money that comes through me goes to him.
Yes, thank you, Karin. The sovereign state of goodhope.org is our website, and you can go into it.
Can you spell the name of the sovereign, the state, the name? Can you spell it out for the listeners?
It's SOVEREIGN, stateofgoodhope.org.
Okay, all right, Good Hope. Yeah. Okay, I didn't hear it clearly. I was thinking it was a different variation of that.
No. Okay. So, my king, if you have some closing words, we're in our last few minutes.
Firstly, Karin, thank you once again for being my hand and being my help. And you know my heart. And for your support for the way forward for our people. And Noreen, thank you very much. You have the right surname, help hand. You've helped us.
Yes, no problem.
You've helped us make your listeners aware of the plight of people of the sovereign state of Kudu and our vision and our desire to be successful for the way forward. And God bless you for what you've done.
Okay, thank you. No, God bless you, and God bless you, King, your wife, Queen Jenny, and Karen Smith. I hear that the music coming on, so I'm gonna have to close the show. Thank you, both of you, all three of you, for coming on. This has been Noreen Halpin at Wild at Heart, and yes, this is a very important topic. But come back again, you guys, and we will see everybody next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Noreen.
Thank you.
Thank you, King
Thank you.
Cornelius.
Bye-bye.
Actually, we're okay. I just shut off the studio, so let me see what's going. Yeah, see, that's the end of the show. I was just.